Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video, we are looking at CoreWeave. It is time for another update. And finally, in the case of this stock, we are looking at a potential opportunity as we may have completed our corrective pattern we track within the smaller time frame. Now, before we actually look at the opportunity here, we have to understand the context because having this opportunity available does imply understanding the larger picture. So, in the case of this stock, I've been tracking this idea of a 1-2 setup for nearly a year. It has had some attempts to form a reversal, some attempts to form a bottom, firstly here, then here. But at this point, since we only built 3 waves up within this initial structure, if I am to consider this to have been the wave 2 bottom, I need to actually look for a larger leading diagonal, potentially in a wave 1 up, then another wave 2 down, or possibly for this to actually be an ABC pattern. Now, this is actually all nice because we would still be looking to extend to higher prices in both of these interpretations, but I also have this orange scenario, which would imply this being an A wave down. This would be a B wave up, and then a C wave would lead to a complete reset of this white wave 2. And the nasty part about this, which is also part of the risk, is that this orange wave B would have a complete count in place. I can track this again as an ABC structure. It doesn't need any further extensions. It doesn't need to form any additional high before extending directly lower. So if I were to buy at these levels, at let's say $100, I have to be fully accepting of the fact that this wave C could very easily take me to $50. Maybe we see a complete failure of the structure of this chart. Maybe we head below $30. So this is the unknown, this is the variable, because I do not know which of these patterns will end up working out. But from a smaller time frame perspective, I am able to identify 3 waves down in this structure, which allow me to consider a potential bottom. Now, before we actually move into this correction and the actual opportunity, I did want to share the ideal target I would expect of the next move up. So, in this yellow interpretation, I would have the wave C looking to reach towards the 100% extension of the wave A. Well, that sits around $187. Granted, it doesn't need to get there. Even the 78.6% extension could prove to provide acceptable returns. Maybe it only heads into these previous swings high, and we form a more substantial top there within this wave C, and then it maybe heads directly into the wave 4 correction. This is one of the interpretations that would allow this stock to also have an opportunity, also head directly higher, also build a larger potential 1-2 setup once it completes the structure. But from a larger time frame perspective, this is not the only option to extend directly higher, because while I could consider the wave 2 to have bottomed here and track the yellow interpretation, it is perfectly possible for this to have formed a truncation and have the wave 2 bottom here instead. It is actually not uncommon within bottoming or topping structures to fail forming that last low, that last leg up, last leg down. The direction is not really important, but in the case of this stock, this would imply that I could have instead an impulse within the wave 1 in place. I could have a 3-wave correction down within a wave 2, and then a wave 3 would become a realistic outcome, and the ideal target for this wave 3 is the 138.2% extension of the wave 1 that sits at $246, and already we are looking at 140% gain as opposed to maybe 50%, 60%, 80%. Yeah, this could actually turn out to be quite substantial. And this is a rudimentary target because if I better understand the context, if I focus on the larger time frame picture, I will have a better understanding that this would be the wave 3 of a wave 3, And the ideal target of the overall wave 3, in the case of this stock, would be far beyond those levels. It would be at $720, where in this scenario, in reality, we could see this internal wave 3 extend far, far beyond the ideal target of the internal structure. Maybe it reaches the 100% extension, maybe the 123.6% extension of the large wave 1, before it completes then a large wave 4 and a large wave 5, thus reaching its larger time frame target. And all of this is very nice. We are looking at ideal targets, we are looking to extend to higher prices, but it is actually not possible to know which of these outcomes will play out. It is not possible to know at this time, and it is not determined at this time, whether this yellow interpretation, another more bullish interpretation, would work out, or if this orange wave C is already forming. If the wave B had topped, and we are heading to significantly lower prices within this wave C. Yeah, maybe we are looking at a 50% drop before having a more substantial bottom form. And I don't know about you, but I do not intend to hold a position that could drop 50% in the next few months. No, because if this structure, if this wave B bottom isn't already in place, or wave 2 for the other more bullish interpretation, but if this move up doesn't manage to hold and it forms a complete reset within this wave B or the wave 2, there is actually a very, very good chance that the orange interpretation will be winning. So in reality, I do not need to allow this retracement to go nearly as deep. I could maybe already look for an exit if it falls below the previous swing low. And from the current level, that is about 9%. Maybe I do want to allow the entire yellow area of support down to $78. Well, even that is significantly better than looking for a 50% drop, because this is about half of that. Now, in terms of actual strategy and all of that, I go into much more depth on Patreon. I cannot deliver all of that here on YouTube. The video would end up being several hours. So what I want to be clear is that ideally, within this, what I'm tracking as a zigzag correction, I already have a bottom in. I would see the possibility of a reset within this internal structure. I do not prefer it, however. And if it happens to indeed form this reset without a stronger bounce or a confirmation that we will not be extending even more aggressively lower, I would have a very difficult time trusting this pattern. Now, in the smallest of timeframes that we can actually even somewhat rely on, we do not have a broader confirmation that the more substantial bottom would be in. I would be able to identify several different counts within this pattern. I could consider this to have been a truncation. I could track here something like a double 1-2-1-2 setup, maybe even an ABC pattern within a wave 1, and then I have a wave 2 correction. As it is within such a small time frame, it's not going to be the most reliable. Yeah, distortions are quite common here. So I will share the ideal path forward, which for me would be building an initial 5-wave move to the upside. It would be here in white, and I would have the wave 4 hold the levels of support down to the 50% retracement, where so far we have actually bounced off the 38.2% retracement, which is the ideal target for a wave 4. If it manages to form one additional high in this structure, I can look for an initial 5-wave move to the upside, an internal 3-wave correction, and then continuation to higher prices within at least another 5-wave move to the upside. So the bottoming region of an internal wave 2 here would be quite interesting, but I do not know that this is how the structure will play out. Again, it is within such a small time frame that we cannot rely upon these patterns. Now, in terms of the correction itself, I consider that this could be complete. I do not really care to go into too much depth in this area, but I do want to highlight that while the first level of support would have been here at $102, and for this idea of a wave 4 and a wave 5 to work out, it needs to hold $99. Before having more confidence that this structure would be ultimately failing, I would have to see a break below $94 instead. And frankly, this could be within a different color. It doesn't really matter For me, the setup is from the larger time frame perspective, where anywhere within the current price region, right, is an interesting opportunity, because I'm looking for a bottom to be in, and I'm looking for this stock to potentially gain, even in the less successful yellow scenario, 50%, maybe 80%, and in some of the more bullish scenarios, a lot more than that. So for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and if you enjoyed the content and want to support it directly, check out the channel membership, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.